Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So again, we've got James here from Mantic Games. So today we've just finished the Hellboy playtesting from the alpha testing, and we've got James here. He's just going to give us a bit of background about where they are with the Hellboy game and what you can look forward to when it eventually comes to Kickstarter.
Excellent, yeah, totally. So yeah, Hellboy.
Yeah.
Hellboy's a thing. You've just played a load of it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so Hellboy at the moment is it's in a place where we've been tinkering with it for a while and playing with the core mechanics, and now we're really unfolding it and looking at the game, how the whole game hangs together.
Yeah.
We're looking at things like pacing and how certain elements come out, how many bad guys are around, that whole thing. So the game itself is, I mean, you know this, but I'm going to talk to you as though you don't.
Exactly, these guys don't.
Yeah, exactly. So the game is thematically intended to be quite close to the comics, less than the film. So the license we've got is with Dark Horse Comics. And for anyone who hasn't seen the Hellboy comics, they're kind of a fairly slow burn, creepy, very dark, gothic set of tales where, I mean, there is escalation and lots of explosions and punching ancient gods kind of things come into it. But the core drive of the stories, it's always an investigation. You know, they're paranormal, you know, investigators as much as anything else. So that's kind of where the game is aiming. The idea is that you have, when you play a case, which is like one of your scenarios, you'll kind of go into it maybe knowing a few things about what you're going to face at the end of it. And then you play through an investigation of an area, and it will all ramp up towards a big confrontation at the end with one of the big bad guys. So the ones we've got in there currently, you've got the really big frog monsters. You've got Rasputin, who you couldn't not have in this. He's like such a central character to the comics. And also a huge tentacled monstrosity which bursts up through the floor and starts grabbing everyone. And the idea is that you'll pick one of those at random, maybe, and through some deck construction and varying the components based on which one, each case will have a very specific field geared towards that enemy. So designing it has been a really interesting kind of a challenge to make it feel like that. And that's one of the things I think we had that we found today was there's maybe a little bit too much fighting, not enough looking around and investigating. There was definitely about kind of getting that balance right and not becoming a fight to the end, and becoming a story. That's very key. I mean, so obviously this is being produced by Mantic, and Mantic have done a lot of games that involve rocking around a set of board tiles and punching people and taking their stuff and that sort of thing. So Dungeon Saga, Star Saga, Dwarf King's Hold, Project Pandora. This, we want to make it feel different. You know, the pace wants to slow down a little bit. Those bad guys are jumping out the shadows, but they're not the main focus. And after today, I'm feeling like I've got some very good levers to pull to make that the case. So
there's obviously that feeling of threat as things are progressing. And I won't go into too much details because who knows if they'll make it into the finished game. But there's definitely a feeling of threat. There's a feeling of progression. There's a feeling of the story unfolding.
Like escalation as you go. Completely. And one of the things that we want to do is kind of give this feel that as you go through it, you're getting kind of clues as to what's going to come up at the end, and then you have a big battle where all all bets are off, and suddenly things start looking really dangerous. Now, admittedly, that wasn't the case today because some of the numbers might have been a little bit wrong. The big tentacle monster might have died very quickly, but that's okay because we're in testing.
And that's the point of it. I mean, even between the three games we played today across 3 different scenarios,
made little changes, didn't we?
There was little tweaks, so some of the stats of the players or some of the rules was changed slightly between games, and it's amazing actually. Even for me, especially having not really been involved in playtesting, it's amazing how much a slight tweak to a rule can make to the whole experience for everybody.
It's a balancing act because you can change a rule a tiny bit, and it's like trying to get the shower temperature right. You know, you nudge it a little bit that way, and you're scalding. And
then somebody puts the tap on the sink.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That is playtesting in a nutshell.
Exactly.
But no, I think the game feels like it's a really good place.
I mean, just building on the game as well, we got to see the first sculpt today of the Hellboy miniature, which looks absolutely fantastic. We also saw some of the renders as well of some of the Rasputin character and some of the other characters that were in the game. And if they're anything to go by, this is going to be a fantastic game with some brilliant rules as well.
Fingers crossed. What I love is the miniatures have kind of captured that Mike Mignola comic book style.
Definitely, yeah.
But translate it into a 3D, very detailed thing. Because of course, it's a very stylistic, almost German expressionist art style, you know, taking that and turning it into a miniature must have been quite a challenge, but they've done a really good job.
Yeah, a lot of the Mike Mignola artwork's very kind of quite angular and it's quite
Blocky,
square,
big, elongated things,
definitely,
you know.
Yeah, so it's not the Hellboy movie kind of like realistic versions.
But you look at the miniatures and you totally see. I mean, Hellboy is lovely. The proportions are great. He just looks, he's threatening looking, you know.
Because it's that kind of sort of angular feel to it. It's a real. I can imagine it's a real balance between making it look like a finished sculpt and not looking like, you know, if we've got the chisel of chin or something like that kind of thing.
So there must have been lots of back and forth, I imagine, to get it looking good. But like I say, it's looking great. I've got one on my desk back at work, so I'm going to paint one of those up.
Oh, fantastic! They've absolutely nailed it. The rules are definitely heading down the right track as well. If this is where we're starting from, it's a fantastic base.
Excellent.
The main kind of obviously some of the main characters that are in there. Is there any kind of sort of what's the idea going forward? Should this be successful or how it grows?
So it's going through Kickstarter. And knowing Mantic Kickstarters, it will probably do pretty well.
Yeah, fun to get.
They tend to fund pretty quickly, and then we get lots of cool stretch goals in. I know the plans for the stretch goals are various things he said, realising he might not be allowed to say something. But there are definitely plans to focus on the different Hellboy story arcs and bring things in. So, you know, hypothetically, there are things like, for example, where he goes and hangs out in, you know, with the Fae characters in, you know, in the British Isles, and finds Excalibur, and that all goes, gets involved in the Wild Hunt. That's the whole thing. He goes to Mexico and fights a load of luchadors. He teams up with luchadors to fight a load of monsters. There's lots of stuff that could happen. I mean, I've been reading back through the Hellboy back catalogue. There's a lot of stuff since I last looked at it.
Yeah, I read it quite a number of years ago, and I'm just starting to go back through. I treated myself recently to the library edition and started reading through that as well.
I read a few of them when I was a student, and that's very recently, of course.
A couple of weeks back.
Quite a while ago. But since then, I've been aware of it. But it wasn't until I kind of signed up to this project I thought, right, I'm going to go and read everything. And there's a lot of everything to read, you know?
It
Especially because what I love with it is as a comics universe, it's very stable. Because Mike has stayed very in touch with it all. It's very rare to see a comics universe that hangs together that tightly. You can look at like Marvel or DC and that. You always get things where this contradicts that because there were 10 comics being produced at once.
And there's been so many reboots and so many different writers and so many different artists.
Whereas that has been just one constant thing for the last 25 years, I think now.
It's amazing,
And I mean, you've got the whole, the BPRD series. What is actually interesting, this is probably a thing that is quite cool to talk about, is because of the nature of the license we've got the whole Mignolaverse to draw from. We had a big discussion about whether we should be sticking to individual storylines for games. But the thing is, we didn't want to tie down the characters that you have to play with. So, for example, we've got, I think there'll be no surprise to me, we've got characters such as, we've got Hellboy, we've got you know, Liz, Abe Sapien, we've got Johann Kraus. Now, in the comics, Johann doesn't turn up until Hellboy leaves the BPRD, so he comes in as a replacement for Hellboy. And yet we've got them rocking around together, which I think has probably never happened in the comics, as far as I'm aware. So I've still got a fair bit of stuff to explore. But we didn't want to say, well, you can't do that. So what we've kind of got is, when you play a mission, it's almost like a sort of a what if, like a mishmash sort of thing. So you're playing in Hellboy's world, but we're not telling any new stories. But we're also not saying this is specifically the Conqueror Worm storyline or Seed of Destruction, whatever it is. You know, this is so. The initial box is very much focused on, it's kind of based around those early issues where you've got, you know, Cavendish Manor and you've got frog monsters jumping out of the walls and all that sort of thing. But you're telling your own stories, which is cool.
No, it's excellent, and it's definitely it's a fantastic universe to tell stories in.
Absolutely,
I mean, it's one of those kind of comic books that is it was quite cult, I think. And then the movies kind of brought it to a wider audience. And I think the first Hellboy movie was relatively close to the kind of source material. The second one was a little bit more
wackier, but,
fantasy,
you know,
and went away a little bit. And then obviously there's a new one coming out soon as well, which is going to kind of reboot the Hellboy franchise.
I hear they're keeping that a bit closer to the comic feel in a way, because I think that the movies ramped up the action a lot more than the comics do.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can see why, because people don't want to watch, you know, a very slow burn thing for a big summer blockbuster.
I guess Batman was in a very similar position as well. It was, you know, the old detective really, rather than the fighting kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And when it gets to the movies, you know, it's all about the action, isn't it, at that point? But it's coming at the right time. It's gonna, like, it's kind of revisiting the Mignola universe. It's coming at a time when Hellboy is starting to get back into pop culture again. And it's a fantastic time for a fantastic license. And I'm personally really looking forward to it. The play test today has kind of added fuel to the fire for me as well. So yeah, all I'd say is absolutely fantastic game that you're working on, that you're making. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for the invite today as well.
Right.
It's
Thanks
been fantastic.
for coming down and playing.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, guys.